Hey there, it's Leslie at Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and there's nothing better than a cup of hot cocoa on cold winter days. So let's decorate this cute cookie mug, which is one of 6 different cookies using a Santa Claus cookie cutter. But before we get started, hey, do you know I also teach online cookie decorating classes? Join me this year and wow Santa with homemade holiday cookies. Following step-by-step video tutorials, you'll learn everything you need to know to make cute cookies just like these and have an unforgettable treat for Santa this year. Find out more details in the description. I have a couple of different classes and they're a lot of fun, so be sure to check those out. But now let's make our smiley face cookie mug. So I'm going to start by outlining the cup, and I'm just going to create a wavy top for the brim of Santa's hat here, and then I'll flood that in. My icing consistencies are all about a 15-second consistency, maybe a little bit thicker, and I'm just going to outline and flood in this mug. And then, as always, I'll use my scribe to get the icing out to the edges and pop any air bubbles. And then I'll give that a little chance to dry while I move up to the outline of the Santa's hat. And Santa's hat's actually also going to be the handle of this mug. So I'm just going to outline that and then go across in a wavy pattern again because I want the hat brim to be fluffy and wavy. And then I'm going to just make a little curved top of the mug here. So I'm touching my icing down and then I'm lifting my bag up and going across, and I watch where the icing is falling, not where my piping bag is going, and that helps me set down a line right at the edge of the cookie. And then in an effort to avoid craters and have a really full rim of the mug, I'm just going to put a line of icing down the middle. There's no need to wait for that to dry. It just is basically ensuring that the icing is going to get all the way down to the cookie so the icing won't sink as it's drying. So we'll just flood right over the top of that, and then I'll use my scribe to further shape the icing and make sure that it's distributed evenly throughout the whole area and that it gets all the way down to the cookie. Then I'm going to set this cookie aside to dry until the icing has crusted over, and now that it has dried, I'm going to go ahead and come back in with my white icing and just make layers of whipped cream on the top of this cocoa mug. So I made my first layer, and I'm just going to use my scribe to make sure the icing is smooth and that it's all the way down to the cookie, and then I'm going to set this cookie aside to dry again. There are a lot of sections to this cookie, so there will be about 15 minutes of drying time between each section, depending on where you live and how humid your climate is. You just need to let it dry until the icing starts to crust over, and then you can outline and flood in the next section of your whipped cream. Once again, using the scribe to settle the icing down. And you're just going to continue that until you get up close to the top. And when we get close to the top, we're going to also add some sprinkles to our whipped cream. And I'm going to speed the video way up here because you've seen this a couple times now. Make sure you let each section dry before piping the next section. And here's a handy tip: if your icing doesn't go quite where you want it to, you can just brush it away with a slightly dampened paintbrush with all of the water wiped off on a paper towel. Let's start adding some sprinkles to the top of our whipped cream. I'm just going to use green and red sprinkles from the grocery store. They're just sanding crystals or sanding sugar. And then we'll just continue on doing each section and adding sprinkles to them just like before. And once again, make sure you let each section dry before piping the next section. And then you want to let it dry completely before you come back in and flood in the rest of his hat brim, making sure that you leave a little opening for the handle of the mug. And just give this a generous amount of white icing, and then I'm going to come back in and add sprinkles again, which is why I needed the whipped cream to be completely dry. And even though we're adding sprinkles here, you want to make sure that your icing is smooth and down to the cookie so that it doesn't crater. And then just go ahead and put some sanding sugar right over the top. That gives a really nice texture to the brim of Santa's hat. And then we need to add the ball of the hat, so I'm just going to add a little squiggly ball over here, and we'll use our scribe to settle that down and let it dry. And then using a Happy Face Royal Icing transfer sheet, I went ahead and piped some eyes so that they would be the same size, and I let those dry completely. And I'm just going to peel them off with a sheet protector and then put a couple of dots of royal icing down, and then put my eyes right on top of that to glue them down to the cookie. And a little bit of my icing has popped out from underneath, so I'm just going to take my dampened paintbrush and wipe that away. And then we need to give Smiley his big smile and add a little bit of texture to the ball of the hat, and then this cookie will be done. So I'm just going to give the hat a little swirl, and then we're done with this cute cookie. Anyone ready for a cup of hot cocoa? I know I am, and this is just one of 6 cookies I made with the same cookie cutter, So be sure to subscribe to the channel to see all of the different tutorials and decorate along with me. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.